what you eat is very important because not only do you want to feed your troops properly, what am I talking about when I say your troops? Your immune system. Thank you, sir. Not only do you want to feed your troops properly, but what do you not want to do to your troops with what you eat? Exactly. You don't want to poison the troops, right? I know one book said that most diseases are due to toxicity. You don't have to write this down. I just want to show you. Toxicity, timing, and thoughts. I like this guy because I like alliteration. Alliteration is when things start with the same letter. I just like that. It's one of the few literary things I can remember from school. And toxicity would be when we're poisoning our troops, okay? Or when we're eating incorrectly and so over long periods of time it causes our body to be toxic. We'll deal with this and this later. Okay, so we're dealing with the toxicity thing right now. And so we want to eat correctly so that our body has a chance to feed the troops and we don't want to poison our troops. That's not a good thing. Not just the right foods are important, you got to get rest. How many of you feel like you frequently don't get enough rest? Okay, that's an honest group. I want you to know, and this is for you moms out there that are watching, teenagers need more sleep than any other group except for babies. Your body is going through so many changes. Now, I say this to your defense because the moms that are going to be watching this, I want them to hear this because frequently moms will go, my teenagers are like in hibernation. What's wrong with them? I want them to get up and do things. You know, now I'm not saying that's giving you an excuse to be lazy. Don't be lazy. But that means you need to get a certain amount of rest. Really try to get like 8 hours if you can and try to go to bed at the same time, get up at the same time. It helps your body to get used to that system so that your body will go to sleep easier. Try not to have any electronics in the room with you where you're sleeping. Try to make sure the room is quiet and dark. Those things all help. But if you go to sleep approximately the same time and get up at the same time, I know Carrie's looking at me like there ain't no way. Well, but you're going to be tired then, and it's no fun being tired, right? And you know why I know all this stuff? Because I'm a woman past menopause, which means I don't sleep well anymore. That's part of one of the symptoms for my age group, and I hate that because you guys know me well enough to know I'm all about having energy, aren't I? And so if I don't sleep, I'm like this, and that's no fun. So that's why I know this stuff. So I'm not preaching at you. I'm telling you what I've read, and what helps me are these things that I just said to you. Rest is very important. If we don't rest, our body doesn't have time to actually fix what's broken. And guys, we eat all day, but guess what? We fast all night. Do you know why? Fasting. You know what I'm talking about? No food. Do you know that our body, I didn't know this till I read Rex Russell's book called What the Bible Says About Healthy Living. And he says, do you realize we are actually designed to fast half of every day? And when he said that, I'm thinking, no, fasting? I don't like fasting. That means no food. That's no fun. He goes, no, think about it. He goes, if you finish dinner by 7 o'clock at night and you don't eat breakfast till 7 o'clock in the morning, he goes, you just fasted a half of every day. And let's be honest, you're not supposed to eat after dinner. It's not good for you because your body's actually going into the time when it's supposed to be fasting so your body can process all the things you ate. Think about it. And that's why if you eat late at night, you're not going to sleep well, are you? Because your body's busy doing things it's not supposed to be doing, and you're like, oh, cranked. It's not good. Oh, okay. So rest is very important. The third thing that was listed there was exercise. Let me tell you why exercise is so important, because we didn't talk about this when we talked about the immune system. Our circulatory system, what pumps the circulatory system around our body? Our heart, exactly, our heart. Do we have a heart to pump the lymph, which is the fluid portion of our immune system? Do we have a heart to pump the lymph through our body? No, we don't. There is no heart or organ to pump the lymph through our immune system. So do you know what is supposed to move the stuff through our immune system? Exercise. Exercise. The movement of the muscles actually keeps that stuff flowing through our body, which means when I know I'm starting to get sick, if I'm not like deathly ill, I will go out and take a walk. I will not take a hard walk. I will not work up a sweat, but I will go out and take a walk because I'll actually feel better afterwards because it allows the muscles to actually move the lymph and the white blood cells and stuff through my tissues to help fight whatever it is my body is fighting. Be smart though. If you've got a fever and your body is saying, sleep now, sleep, okay? Your body's trying to tell you something, so please go ahead and pay attention to it. But if you're able to take a short walk or whatever, you may want to do that. If you're too sick, your body will tell you. Do you notice how sometimes when you're sick, you don't feel like eating? Don't eat. Your body is telling you it needs to fast. When your body is telling you that it doesn't want to eat, don't eat, because your digestive tract will actually take away from what your body's trying to do. Now, drink water like crazy, because not only do you need the water to help you through the fever and help you through the dilution process, but dehydration is never good for us. So drink water like crazy. But if your body says don't eat, I really don't want to eat, then don't eat. Okay? And then other things, you'll be sick and you'll be starving. Have you noticed that before? Then eat. You need food for your system to fight. Okay? So listen to your body. Listen to your body. And that's really, really important. We live or die on a cellular level. Did you know that the reason we die when we have no oxygen is because our cells can't burn glucose to make little batteries called ATPs, because fire doesn't burn without oxygen? You knew that, right? If you put a candle, lit candle under a jar, it goes out because the oxygen runs out. Well, the reason we die if we don't have oxygen is because each of our little cells are burning glucose, a simple sugar, to produce little batteries that our cells run on called ATPs. And if you run out of ATPs, you die. So if you don't get air for long enough, you die because your cells can't burn. Does everybody understand that? So we live or die on a cellular level. If our cells get sick, we're sick. Remember when I mentioned cancer to you before and I said that the cells have something mutate in the DNA and that's what causes the cancer? It all starts at the root on the cellular level, okay? So we want to help our cells stay healthy. That's really what it gets down to. And when food is processed, it tends to change it from the form we need it into a form that can be toxic for us. Water is probably the most important macronutrient. You will die faster from not having water than any of the other things that we're going to talk about. How much water should we be drinking every day? 8 to 10 8-ounce glasses. Now, I know a lot of people probably aren't drinking that much water. That's a lot of water, isn't it? Let's say 5 of those 1-liter bottles a day. Shoot, I drink a lot more water than that. So I think you can, that's probably the absolute minimum. And then if you live any place like we do in South Florida or someplace where you sweat, you're going to need more than that, aren't you? Because you have to replace that water that's coming out in the process of cooling your body. I know one person I heard that's a health person said, whatever you weigh, take half of your weight, that's how many ounces of water you should be drinking every day. Because a gallon would be about right for a 120-pound person. I am so not a 120-pound person. I drink a lot more water than that. Guys, listen to your body. And I'm going to say this while I'm on this right now. I'm about to teach you 4 more weeks after today of nutrition. Don't go home and change everything you eat really fast. If you do, you're going to feel sick. Because what happens is your body is used to what you're doing now. And if you start shifting to a real healthy diet really fast, you're going to start detoxing. And detoxing makes you feel sick. Makes you feel awful. And then a lot of people go, oh man, I feel lousy, and this healthy thing, that's crazy, and they just quit. You don't want to do that. You want to make slow changes to your health, unless of course you are in a situation where you already have cancer or diabetes or something like that. Then you need to do something, drastic. But you guys look healthy to me generally, okay? So what you want to do is make slow changes. You don't want to make rapid changes. The other thing is, guys, have you heard that plastic bottles, and I know we're all drinking out of plastic bottles, but the plastic bottles can be very bad for you because there's chemicals in the plastic that leaches into the water. And so especially if it's been in the heat, you don't want to drink out of a plastic bottle that's been in the heat, because that causes the what is it called? Dioxins? Yeah, something like that. There's chemicals that actually leach into the water. So you want to try, and that's why a lot of people now are drinking out of glass, and you can get Voss if you're rich, or things like that. What I do, I'm a bad person. I buy Perrier because to me it's a treat, because I don't do soda, and I know it's got bad for you stuff in it because the CO2 in it that makes it fuzz, the sparkly water. The sparkles in it are actually a waste product of our body. It's carbon dioxide, so you're drinking waste products. So I know it's a treat, and I'm never going to tell you not to have some stuff as a treat, because I'm realistic, okay? But you know what I do? Then I keep the Perrier bottles, and then I fill them up with water at home. I fill them up with reverse osmosis water or some kind of clean water, and then I carry those around, and that's what I drink out of. Don't freeze water bottles. I had a mom turn me on to that. You can take your little water bottles and refill them half full, and then freeze them. This is what a lot of homeschool moms did. Freeze them, and then when you're ready to go on a trip, you just add the rest of the water, and you got a little cold ice brick, and it serves as water. We were poisoning our children, because when you freeze those things, you're putting even more chemicals into the water. And I used to do that, because I thought that was such a cool trick. Just throw them in the cooler with the kids' lunch, you know. I had cold water for everybody. It acted like the ice. Then I found out I was poisoning my children. So we stopped doing that. Aren't we glad that we serve a God of grace? Yes. The next group. What is the next thing that we're actually supposed to eat the most of? Do you know? And it gets a very bad rap. Carbohydrates, is that what you said? Good. And carbohydrates get a very bad rap because there's a lot of people that'll go, oh, you shouldn't eat any carbohydrates because that's killing you. Well, bad for you carbohydrates are killing you. What's a bad for you carbohydrate? Anything with sugars, candy, white bread, white pasta. Can we say processed? Okay, so, of course that's going to kill you, but just about anything that's processed will kill you. What's a good for you carb? Does anybody here know what a good for you carb might be? Fruit. Is fruit bad for you? No. You can live on fruit and what else? Vegetables. Thank you. Fruits and vegetables are carbs. You can literally live on fruits and vegetables and be a healthy person. There are a certain amount of proteins in these naturally occurring carbs. And then the other carbs that have proteins in them are plant-based foods like beans and grains. Right? All of those are carbs. Are those bad things? No. Like I said, you can actually live on those things and be very, very healthful. So it's the processed carbs, it's the simple carbs that can kill you. There's soluble fiber and insoluble fiber, both of which our body has to have fiber. If you don't have enough fiber, then what happens is the garbage can in your body gets full and the garbage never gets taken out, and then you are going to be very, very sick. Think about what the garbage can is like. If you have a bunch of garbage in it at home and nobody takes the garbage out for days and days and days, it stinks and gets rotten, doesn't it? That's exactly what happens in our bodies if we don't have enough fiber and the garbage isn't taken out on a regular basis. Very, very important. Where does that come from? Because fiber comes from plant material. Animal material has zero fiber. Plant material is the only place we get fiber. We cannot digest it, and that's a good thing. We do not absorb it. That's a good thing. That's because it's busy pushing everything out the other end. Yay, fiber! So you can actually live on just a vegetarian diet, and this is beyond vegetarian. What we're talking about, what you and I are talking about now, is what's called a vegan diet. Let me just write that so you know it. Some people pronounce it vegan. To me, that's vegan because I'm a homeschool mom. If you have a short syllable that ends with a vowel, the vowel's long. Oh, I learned that homeschooling my children because nobody taught me that in school. Anyway, so I pronounce this vegan. I just, in case you hear it some other way. What a vegan is, I know the first time I heard it, it sounded like a Vulcan, Yes, live long and prosper. A vegan is actually somebody that doesn't eat any kind of animal products. Now, then there's a vegetarian. A vegetarian, in general, is someone that doesn't eat flesh. They can eat cheese, they can eat yogurt, they can drink milk, because a vegetarian doesn't eat flesh. Meat, that's what we're looking at. Some vegetarians will even eat eggs, because it's not actual flesh. Then there's pesca-vegetarians, which are vegetarians that also eat fish. Well, to me, as soon as you start eating something else, you're no longer a vegetarian because you're eating flesh. But that's just me. I'm sort of black and white on some things. You guys forgive me for that, okay? God's still working with me, trying to beat some gray into me. You can do this. Do I think it's a good idea? No. The vegans that I know have teeth issues. That says to me that there's a problem with a totally vegan lifestyle if you're going to end up with issues. And the vegans that I know that actually did do it for years, they ended up with teeth issues. They went to their dentist said, you're a vegan, aren't you? I talked to some of these people. So they added back some meat products here and there so that their teeth would get stronger. So I'm not saying that you should just live on this, but what I'm saying is most of us aren't getting nearly enough fruits and vegetables. And I'm going to come back to this, but you know that 75% of our diet should be fruits and vegetables? It's 75% fruits and vegetables and 25% protein. So if you're doing your proteins in the form of vegetable products, it still counts as a protein, which would be your cereals, your breads, your beans, hummus, nut butters, almond butter, peanut butter, those kind of things. Those are still proteins, not to mention eggs, cheese, meat. Those are your heavy-duty proteins, okay? So what I'm saying is 75% should be fruits and vegetables, 25% should be protein, and the protein would count your animal products and your Plant protein. Most weight loss programs have a lot of protein in them, and it's because protein is what's called the negative food value. But protein takes more energy for our body to digest than it actually gives our body, and because it takes so long to digest, it keeps us from getting hungry as fast, and therefore a lot of weight loss programs will have a lot of protein. The problem is, and this is a huge problem, too many proteins in your diet makes your body go acid. It's very dangerous for your body to get too acidic. Let's finish this up. There's one more macronutrient, fats. Fats are very important. Proteins break down to something called amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. Fats are broken down to little building blocks called fatty acids. Notice all these acids. We're going to come back to this. So acids inherently aren't bad. It's that when we eat too many proteins, we can stress our body with too much acid ash in our bodies. And I'll come back and explain that. So when we eat good for you proteins, like Caleb's mom eating the almond butter, or like us eating a free-range egg, or free-range beef, or free-range chicken, or wild-caught fish, these proteins, animal proteins, are complete proteins. They have all the different amino acids in it our bodies need. Have you guys ever heard of essential amino acids before? When you hear the word essential, when we are talking about nutrition, it means your body absolutely needs it and cannot make it itself. Did everybody hear what I just said? Essential means your body absolutely needs it to survive and cannot make it itself. So if our body can't make it itself, what do we have to do? We have to eat it. Because if we don't eat it, our body doesn't have what it needs. Out of the amino acids that make up the proteins, about half of them are essential. You must eat them every day. If you don't, your body doesn't have what it needs to do its job. Does everybody understand that? And the only complete proteins that I know of, in one of the books I read, it said only complete proteins are in animal proteins, but then I read another book that said that's not true. They're now finding that there are some plant proteins that are complete. They may not be quite the balance they want, but they are complete. So the point is, you're safe with the animal proteins if you get a safe animal protein, okay, to get a complete protein. But you can do it with the plant sources if you just, like have your beans with rice or something like that, hummus with healthy bread. That's why you get the bean and the grain in again. Fatty acids are really important because, you know what? Not only does our skin need it so that we can survive, our brain needs the healthy fats. I told you that a couple weeks ago. There's a lot of things in our body that absolutely need healthy fats, and without them, our body breaks down. And we're going to be studying those as we go through the different parts of nutrition. So there's essential fatty acids, too. There's fatty acids, omega-6, omega-3s. There's essential fatty acids our body can't make that you have to eat. Have you ever, do you guys know anybody that's taking maybe fermented cod liver oil or fish oils? Do you know anybody like that? Okay, that's because they're trying to get those essential fatty acids in, and fish are a really good way of getting them, fish oils, okay? And most of us don't like the taste of the oily fish, so we take it in capsules. I'm one of them. Okay, I like nice, clean South Florida white fish that's really light and fluffy, Otherwise, aren't we spoiled? We're so spoiled. Okay, what's a micronutrient? Vitamins, very good. Do you guys remember that when I was teaching you about enzymes, I told you that the enzymes were the guys that were quick making things go faster, right? Without getting used up. So they're busy doing a job and making things happen, but they stay, they don't disappear. Vitamins are what are called coenzymes. In other words, the guy that's standing here, the enzyme that's doing his job, can't do his job unless the vitamin helps him. It's like the vitamin's holding him up. And without it, it can't work. Vitamin C is that way, and you read about scurvy. That scurvy was what the sailors used to get because they would live on the boats for long periods of time and not have any fresh fruits and vegetables, and therefore they'd be very vitamin C deficient. And literally, the connective tissue in their bodies would fall apart. Their teeth would start to fall out, their fingernails would fall out, their skin would turn black, and it was a long, slow, painful death. And all they had to do, the Native Americans, actually in Canada, the Native Americans gave them pine needle tea, and it had vitamin C in it, and it healed them. And they're like, what's the magic of this pine needle tea, And it healed them. Well, they had a vitamin deficiency. So vitamin deficiencies can be horrible. Certain vitamin deficiencies that they saw in the South in the early 1900s actually caused people to go crazy. And then they'd feed them, and they wouldn't be crazy anymore. They'd put them in institutions, and then they'd feed them correctly, and the people weren't crazy. They had a vitamin deficiency. So they could have all sorts of horrible effects if we don't have the right vitamins. Guess what the best way to get all the vitamins we need is? Eating what? Fruits and vegetables. Oh my goodness. We're going to keep hearing that. I'm going to tell you this right now, okay? Fruits and vegetables. Best way to get the vitamins we need is through fruits and vegetables. When we take supplements that aren't natural, that aren't just dehydrated fruits and vegetables, then what's happening is we are separating the vitamins from their natural form. And you read about synergy, the idea that when God does something, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2 anymore, it equals 3 or 4. It's because, and I know you're going, I'm telling you that scientifically it does. And the reason is because God combines these things in such a way that they're what's called more bioavailable. What that means is that our bodies are able to use them better. And so we need to have them in the form that God made them, which is usually found in fruits and vegetables. Okay? What's another micronutrient that our bodies need? Minerals. Okay, minerals. Where are the minerals found on planet Earth that they get into the fruits and vegetables? Thank you. Wyatt said rocks. That's where the minerals are. The minerals are actually in the rocks. And so when the water passes through the rocks, it takes little pieces of the rocks with it, puts it in the ground, and then the plants suck it up, okay? And then it gets into the plant. Then when we eat the plant, that's how we get the minerals. And we can be mineral deficient. Some of the minerals you've probably heard of are things like calcium. Yeah, we hear a lot about calcium, don't we? And sodium and phosphorus and zinc, and there's other ones. Maybe you've taken that stuff before to fight colds and it's got zinc in it, okay? So those are all different minerals that our body actually needs because, once again, they function as coenzymes. The enzymes, these guys that are busy doing the work, can't do their job unless they have the coenzymes and the vitamins and the minerals that they need, or our body breaks down and we're in real trouble. When all else fails, read the directions. Now, there are 4. I can count, really. There are 4 things that I told you that we are going to act as principles throughout this study. Our first principle, eat as the things that God made as food. If God didn't make it to be food, we probably shouldn't be eating it. We are going to come back to these things because these are the principles that we're going to be basing everything we do off of. These first 3 come out of the book called What the Bible Says About Healthy Living by Dr. Rex Russell. Okay, so he's a Christian MD that wrote it, a very good book. But that's his first premise. What is the second premise? Well, let me just give an example. He gave the example there of the Hunzas. This was a tribe in Pakistan area that was living to 120 years old. They were living on basically fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds. That's what they lived on, and they were averaging 120-year-olds in their population. And that's because they were eating what God meant to be food. And then Pakistan was incorporated them into their government. And within a very short period of time, their lifespan went down because they started changing the way they were eating because they weren't necessarily following this premise anymore. It was in the 1940s that they were discovered, and at the time they didn't have any cancer, ulcers, appendicitis, heart disease, high blood pressure, nothing that we think of. And then they were incorporated into Pakistan in 1949, and that was when their lifespans shortened. I want to be very clear. Did you guys watch those initial videos on the Creation Foundation? Do you remember in those? I told you why people used to live so long. The reason people used to, we believe that the reason people used to live so long is they had, on the ends of our chromosomes, which are our DNA molecules, we have these little counting beads called telomeres. And that every time your cell reproduces and copies the DNA molecules so it can make new cells, it cuts off one of those counting beads called a telomere. Well, we believe that people used to have longer telomeres, and that's why people before the flood were able to live an average of 900 years. And then the population, it's called a genetic bottleneck. The population got bottlenecked during the flood where it was down to just 8 people, 6 of which were the ones having children because it was the parents and then the 3 boys and their wives. And so we believe that they lost that genetic ability to have those long telomeres. So we see people's lifespan shortening pretty quickly after the flood to where by the time of Abraham, they were only living, Abraham wimped out at 175. And then by David's time, it was down to more around 120. They say, scientifically, that people can't live much past 120 because your cells will stop replicating because your telomeres will run out. So these people that think they're going to, freeze their bodies and wait till medicine has figured out a way to keep them alive forever, they're missing the point because as soon as they die, they're stepping into the presence of God, aren't they? That's why we have to share the gospel with people, isn't it? But so you got it? So we only last approximately 120 years even if we do everything perfectly. You know what? As a Christian, I don't want to last that long. I'm here, I'm having a good time, but I'm looking forward to heaven. I'm here to do kingdom work and to serve, because then I get to bow at the feet of my Lord and spend eternity worshiping him and doing whatever he wants me to do. And I'm looking forward to that. I don't want to be here that long. That's my attitude, okay? I mean, this is all great and fun, and for some Christians, it's not even great and fun, is it? For some Christians, it's persecution and suffering. So they really look forward to heaven. But I'm looking forward to heaven too. I don't know about you, but when I worship, man, that's fun. Worship's fun. So I'm looking forward to being with Jesus. I hope you are too. All right, what's the second principle? We are to eat the food in the form God meant for us to. Why don't we put it in the form God made? Because it's when we get involved that things get messed up, right? And so the example we had there, and when we talked about teeth, we talked about that, didn't we? The people that lived on processed foods, their teeth got all messed up. Like came in all funky, and they rot. And that particular gentleman, Weston Price, that was making those observations and taking those pictures around the world, was actually trying to make the point that he saw a correlation between their teeth being messed up and them having diseases. Most of the people with the messed up teeth also had tuberculosis and other diseases that he could identify, whereas the people that were eating the foods the way God meant for them to be eaten in their natural form not only had better teeth, but they also had better immune systems to where they weren't getting these diseases. So that was the correlation that Weston Price was actually making. And then the example, once again, that Dr. Russell gave us was there was an island called Nauru in the Pacific. And originally, the people there had a very tiny hospital because there were no cases of diabetes, none of the diseases we think of. And then they found phosphates on the island. And so they westernized the island and brought our foods to the island, and within 40 years, 65% of the adult population had diabetes. Don't tell me diabetes isn't associated with what we eat. It absolutely is. And it's because of what we do with the food. If you eat food in its natural form, you are not going to get diabetes. I mean, you'd have to stand around chewing on sugar cane to get diabetes. You know what I'm saying? And by then, you'd have lost your teeth anyway, so it's all good. Okay, don't do that is what I'm telling you. Don't stand around chewing on sugar cane. What's the third principle? No food addictions. Give me a food that some people have an addiction to.
Pizza.
Grace, I love you. She said pizza right away. Grace, do you know what I want to have for my birthday this year? Pizza. And I can't have it. My daughter's going to make me a paleo pizza. That means no wheat, no cheese, because I have sensitivities to both those things. But there is nothing I miss as badly as pizza. They had some in my house the other day, and I took one bite, and 2 days later, I had the rash. And I'm like, okay. I got it, Lord. So I've already told my family, because my birthday's next month, and I already told my family, I want pizza. That's what I want. Figure it out. You know? Yes, ma'am.
Coffee and chocolate.
Okay. Chocolate, I definitely have that food addiction. You know, I have to stay away from chocolate because I'm a chocoholic. And some of you know that, and you bring me lovely chocolate things for Christmas, and they have to last for months because I would die on all the chocolate you guys are kind enough to bring me. My husband loves Christmas for that reason. Anyway, so chocolate. What's in coffee that people are addicted to?
Caffeine.
Caffeine, very good, to caffeine. A lot of people are addicted to caffeine. And actually, if they are addicted to the caffeine and they try to get off, remember I told you to make slow changes? Do you know that they can get major withdrawal symptoms and headaches and feel like they have a flu and the whole bit? So don't think it doesn't happen. It really does.
I was just going to say donuts.
Donuts, okay. Okay, let's go there. So far, our addictions that we mentioned were caffeine, and then he mentioned, I'm hoping I'm spelling caffeine correctly. Sugar is what we're talking about when we talk about the chocolate or when we talk about the donuts. We're talking about a sugar addiction, aren't we? And guys, sugar is extremely addictive. Have you ever noticed that you have one piece of candy and then you want more? Come on, normal people are like that. Okay. Or am I the only weird one? Okay. If I start, I can sit down and start cookies, and if I have the whole bowl next to me, I'll look down and they'll be gone. And I'm like, oh, you know, because it just makes me want more. So sugar's very addictive. Yes? That's true, but it's not a food. But you're absolutely right. She mentioned cigarettes, and I just want you to know that nicotine, from the reading and what I've been taught, nicotine is more addictive than any other drug. It's supposed to be more addictive than like cocaine or heroin. And you know why they do that? It's called product loyalty. Same with Coke or Pepsi or whatever you do. It's called product loyalty. If they can get you addicted to it, then you will keep buying it, won't you? right? And that's product loyalty. They don't care if they poison you because they're making money. Otherwise, could they sell? I had a student once, God bless his soul. I'll never forget him. And he goes, they can't do that. And I looked at him and I smiled and I go, cigarettes. And he looked at me and he stopped. Because I said something about product loyalty, and he goes, oh, you're right. I go, they can sell you, as long as it's legal, they can kill you with it. You got to be smart enough to take care of yourself. We are responsible for ourselves. Before God, we are responsible for how we take care of our bodies. We live in a time where people are trying to say it's somebody else's fault. That's not going to work with the Lord, is it? We have to be responsible. This body doesn't belong to us, does it? It's on loan. It was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Remember that when you go to kill it. Seriously. Trust me when the Lord keeps reminding me of that when I want to sit down and have a Lindor. Okay? If you don't know what that is, let it go. Okay, some of the other things you can be addicted to are salt. That's a big one for me. So I mix up my own salt. I mix my granulated garlic with Himalayan sea salt. At least that way I know I'm getting something good out of it because there's minerals and stuff in it that I need. So be careful of salt. Another one that people get addicted to are fats. I should put an S there. Fats, so fried foods, things like that people can get very addicted to. Now these are Dr. Russell's 3. What is the 4th one that we have to remember? Do not judge. Now this is very important. And the parents of my students actually added this one to our rules. And it's because after the kids learned all the stuff that I'm going to teach you, they would go back and say to cousin Eddie, oh, you're going to die if you eat that. You know, and mom's like, oh, great. So it's important. Come on. It's important that we remember that the Lord tells us to speak the truth in love. And sometimes speaking the truth in love means not saying anything at all. Okay? And if you are going to say something, you're not going to say, you're going to die. Okay? Instead, you may want to say, wow, you know, I had this really weird teacher that told me this, this, and this. And, you know, maybe you should try eating this with me and see if you like it. Okay? Remember, you don't want to tell people, even if somebody is on board and wants to get well, you don't want people to make really rapid changes because if so, it's going to make them feel sick anyway. Unless they're already in a heavy-duty disease state, you want to make the changes slowly. So please remember that through this whole thing. But don't judge others for what they eat. I could give you a personal example. I raised my kids with some of this. When my youngest daughter, who is now 18, was about a year old, is when I started to really learn a lot of this. So we made some major shifts. And I wouldn't take my kids to McDonald's. I don't know if you realize this, but if you take a McDonald's Happy Meal and you put it on top of your refrigerator open, nothing grows in it. Bacteria won't even grow in it. Fungus won't even grow in it, okay? Because there's no nutrients and it's all toxic. That's really what it gets down to. So the point is I wouldn't take my kids to McDonald's. And I always called it the house of death. Forgive me, but I always called it the house of death. So we're coming back from the dentist, and we used to drive an hour and a half to get to the particular dentist I went to when we lived upstate. And a nice Christian man that I knew, so I'd drive the distance. And my kids have had some real dental issues. So we're driving back from the dentist, and they'd been drilled on, and when they do that, I always buy them a shake, you know, because the shake's kind of fun after your mouth's all messed up and you can't eat anything anyway type of thing. So we pull into McDonald's to get the shake. And when we pull up to the window, my youngest pops up and goes, Mom, we're at the house of death. I'm like, oh no. I'm going, shh, shh, but Mom. I'm like, hush, just hush. So you don't want to judge others. It'll come back to bite you, trust me. Let me say one other thing because then we can finish at least what you read. The last premise is, don't just say what would Jesus do, but that is important. We want to say what would Jesus do and what would Jesus have us to do. That's what we want to do, right? What would he have us to do?